Hello, and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I'm one of your hosts, Zach, and joining me as always is Aaron.
Hello.
And we got a bunch of news to talk about, but we're going to follow up on our Animal Well discussion from last week.
Yes.
We've made a lot more progress this week. But, I don't know, do we want to launch right into our news?
Let's do it. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about this week. A large news segment, which I feel like we haven't gotten in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have a ton to say about a lot of this, but like, first off, Fallout apparently is coming to Fortnite. There was a tease that was posted on X, and there's no details about this, but it's just like the image is like some Fallout power armor in Fortnite. So, I mean, that's interesting. I wonder about the timing, though. I feel like they missed their chance to get this released right as like the TV show was launching. But
I wonder what it will be, because they're pretty good about doing not just skins when they do collaborations like this. Like, I'm sure there will be some skins, but like when they did the Avatar crossovers, you could like do water bending in game. So I wonder if you'll actually be able to get into power armor, if there's going to be like power armor on the map you can get into, or if you can get like a Pip-Boy, stuff like that. I'll be curious to see what the collaboration actually is. I wonder if there will be a vault on the map somewhere you can get to.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I do think it'll probably involve like, oh, here's a suit of power armor. Somebody, get there first, and then you become basically an unstoppable tank sort of character. But
very interesting. I actually played a little bit of Fortnite last week.
Oh, really?
Dropped in. So normally I do a weekly Dungeons and Dragons game. Well, it's Pathfinder right now, with a couple of my friends, and I did not have my campaign ready last week, so we jumped into Fortnite, and I showed them all about Fortnite. And it was pretty fun. One person was on Switch, and I was on Xbox, and one person was on PC, and we all played seamlessly together. And I showed them all about how you can get a lightsaber right now, because there was a Star Wars thing going on, and it was a good time.
I have only jumped in like very sparsely over the last few years, and usually it's because I'm like hanging out with like my brother or something.
Always good to play with people, I feel like. Not as fun to play by yourself.
Yeah, and it's that happens super rarely, but I have jumped in a few times, and usually like you can tell when you're playing bots, and that's probably when it's most fun, because then you start getting destroyed and you're like, oh, maybe it's time to put this away for a while. But I'm interested to see what the Fallout stuff ends up being. But
this isn't in our show notes, but it happened a couple weeks ago. I haven't been playing Apex as much. We were both pretty hot on Apex earlier in the year and last year, but they have a new season and a new what are the characters called? It's been a while.
Yeah.
Not a Predator. A legend. A new legend.
Yes. Yeah, because it's in the title of the game, right?
Apex Legends, yeah. Did you see anything about that?
I did not.
Alter is her name.
Interesting. And what's her ability?
She has Link's ability from from Tears of the Kingdom. She can walk through walls and like up through surfaces. She creates like a rift, and you can go through solid objects for a certain amount. And also, she drops a little beacon that you and your friends, it creates like a radius of effect where if you're so far away from it, you can look at it and then I guess interact with it and then zip to that, like teleport to that location. So it's like a central place you can all kind of meet up at wherever you're at.
Interesting.
It is interesting. It looks fun to play. Like you can, if someone's above you, you can just like create your rift and they just drop down to you, or you can just like go through. It seems like a large amount of solid matter. So it seems like it's been a lot of fun. I used to watch that iTemps guy play a lot whenever I was just hanging out, but I haven't been playing Apex as much, so I've kind of dropped off on the news cycle. But I think I will probably jump back in eventually. Maybe when they release that new big city map they keep talking about. But for now, I'm kind of out of the Apex zone.
I was thinking about it just this week, actually. I was thinking I should jump back into either like Battlefield or Apex or something and
Yeah.
just like play some online multiplayer shooter. Every once in a while, I'll get in the mood to play them. And I haven't been for a long time. And just recently, the mood struck me, but instead I stuck with Animal Well for a little while. But
I think that was smart to do. I love spoiler alert for later in the podcast, but I love Animal Well. But speaking of first person shooters, maybe it'll be a little easier to jump into them this year.
yeah, so it sounds like Microsoft is going to launch this year's Call of Duty on Game Pass. I know there was a lot of speculation as to whether that was going to happen or not, and whether it would be profitable for them to do so, and if they needed to like release it and rake in the sales the way they normally do. But Game Informer is reporting that they're planning to actually launch this year's Call of Duty on Game Pass. So
Now, what does this mean? Like, Call of Duty is like a hub now. When we tried to play the Battle Royale, it was very confusing for us. Does that mean that, I mean, the Battle Royale is already free, but does Call of Duty always have a campaign, or is it's sometimes just multiplayer, right?
yeah, I think that I can't remember, because I feel like they went through maybe like an iteration or two where they did not have campaign, and then they went back to doing campaigns again. I've been out of the Call of Duty loop for a while. I know Battlefield has like gone away from campaigns and now they just do multiplayer. And I've thought for the longest time that Call of Duty, especially if they're rotating teams like this, that they should make them separate. Have like a $20 campaign that they push out like every year or every other year, and then do alongside that have like more or less like an Apex or a Fortnite situation where they just have a multiplayer that they're constantly updating. And
Well, that would make sense to me.
make it free to play and do all the sort of stuff you expect to see in like an Apex. And then just every time a new campaign comes out, you have like tie-in stuff that happens. But I don't run either of these companies, so they don't ask for my input. But
Yeah.
I think this makes sense. Like any yearly release thing makes a lot of sense to me as being part of a subscription service. I would rather just like, oh, I will probably play this for like a couple weeks. Let me just do a sub for a month and not have to spend $60-$70 on a game that I probably won't play all year. Instead, let me sub for a month and I'll get my fill and then bounce and be done. So I may check it out. And this would be the first Call of Duty in years that I have checked out if it does come to Game Pass and I do actually take the time to play it. But it'll feel like old times, I guess. Cause
There's no trailer or anything for this one yet, is there?
I doubt it. I feel like they normally do like a special Call of Duty reveal over the summer. So I feel like that's still coming. This was more them just reportedly announcing, or not necessarily announcing, but just like reportedly planning to launch it on Game Pass.
This we're gonna get this after Microsoft's thing. Remember, Microsoft's having their press conference, and then immediately after it, they're having a Call of Duty press conference.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like they've done their own like Call of Duty centric little showcase every year for the past however many years, and now that they're under Microsoft's umbrella, just to position it directly after Xbox's thing makes sense. So,
because last year we had the Starfield thing directly after. I wonder if that'll be a trend where Microsoft will
whatever their big thing for the fall is.
Yeah, exactly. And then they'll have like the special retrospective right after their press conference. I wonder what it'll be next year.
Speaking of Bethesda, do you think we'll get like a big DLC like deep dive sort of thing this summer?
It's a good question. They released that May update, which had a bunch of good stuff. We talked about that last week. Um, I don't know, man. I Bethesda's in such a weird place right now. I'm very curious to see if they announce anything at Microsoft's press conference. Like, it's been a while since we've gotten anything Doom related. That's another one of their huge IPs. So I don't know. I'm so curious to know where they're at. Like, I feel like it was the launch of Starfield was so it was just so down the middle where people were not like super into it, but not super not into it. Where they're just in such an odd place right now. They got to do something with Starfield.
Yeah, I mean,
like.
I would say it was even polarizing with the release of it, where you had some people who were super into it and you had some people who were super anti it. And then on top of that, just recently, you had all those layoffs and the different studios closing.
Yeah.
And those were like Bethesda studios or sort of under that umbrella a little bit.
Yeah.
And so they are as sort of a company owned by Microsoft in sort of a weird spot. But they do have Indiana Jones.
True. I always forget about that when we're talking about them. That is something that's
fair. I don't blame you for forgetting that exists, but that is still coming at some point. And that most recent sort of May update video that they put out just sort of briefly talked about the fact that they have like a bunch of stuff in the works for Starfield. So I feel like it would make sense that like maybe that's a big fall update they have planned. And so they could, over the summer, just sort of talk about some of the stuff that's coming in that. So that's potential, but it's me guessing more than knowing what's happening. So,
Zach, you have to clear your schedule for fall 2025.
Yeah, so apparently Rockstar is planning to release Grand Theft Auto 6 in fall of 2025. So that's their sort of target window for the game. Which, am I misremembering this? But did they originally have that planned and then they had to push it back and then it was sort of up in the air and now they're just sort of saying, okay, fall 2025?
I think the rumor was we were going to get it late 2024, but that was never official. And then we got the first official trailer, which at the very end of it just said 2025. And
oh, that's
like,
right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy because when did that trailer come out? I think it was still 2023 when the trailer came out. And
yeah.
So we were all like, whoa, not even 2024?
Yeah, we were all a little bit expecting late 2024 and they said 2025.
But now they have narrowed the window down to fall 2025. And who knows, that will probably slip. But this is something that I would not be surprised if we don't see any showing this year at the Game Awards or any other.
Well, it's weird because we've already seen, I feel like, a bunch of it because some of it's because of leaks, which is not fair, but they had that big like trailer that they released.
Yeah, which was a great trailer, a great overview. Not necessarily like we didn't see any UI or anything, but yeah, I don't think I think we haven't. They think that we have enough to be tided over until who knows. I could see something at the Game Awards maybe in December.
Well, yeah. Now that we know that it's fall 2025 and not like spring 2025, then yeah, I can see it being like a Game Awards type of thing,
but I'll be checking it out whenever it comes out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like it's been in development for a super long time, but I'm not gonna be bummed if they take a little bit more time and they release
it's not
a very
something
polished thing. And
obviously it's gonna be great when it comes out, and I'm very excited for it. But it's not something where I'm like constantly looking for rumors about it. I'm ready for it to be out whenever it's out.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at with it as well. But speaking of things that are coming out, Ubisoft unveiled Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is coming this November. Did this do anything for you?
It's interesting. I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since the first one. It's not really my genre. Also, I mean, Ubisoft in general has kind of fallen off for me. I haven't played the last couple Far Cry games either. But
Yeah.
a couple of things about this are interesting. IGN had a bunch of stuff about this where like a thing that happens in every Assassin's Creed game is you climb a tower and then a bunch of things are revealed to you on the map. And this one is kind of doing away with that. You still climb the tower, but it doesn't go to the like cutscene where it looks all around you and stuff is revealed. Now you climb the tower and then you actively have to like look around and tag stuff on your map, which is an interesting change, I guess. Every mission can be played by either of the two characters. That's like the main thing about this one is it's in Japan and you can play as like a big bruiser character who has this cool looking club, it looks like in the trailer, or like a very slight character who's like a rogue type, or like I guess ninja would be the correct parlance. I guess it's like a samurai and a ninja type of thing. But I think they did this before. Again, I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since the first one, but wasn't there one in England where you were a brother and a sister? Or did you have to pick at the beginning if you were the brother or the sister?
I don't know. That sounds right, but I don't remember it. I know
that
there
one was the one where like trains were a big thing. I think a Syndicate, I think, was the name.
I
of that
feel
one.
like that was also the case of that. What was it? Egypt. What was the one?
Could you be more than one character in that one?
There was the one where you could play as the girl or the guy, and I thought
that was the Greece one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. And I thought they were like brother and sister, maybe, but maybe not.
Maybe, I don't remember. I think you're right about that. I guess I did play that one briefly back when.
Oh yeah, because that was part of the Google like before
project.
What was that called?
I don't remember. The thing that was before Stadia.
Yeah, it was the thing. The precursor to Stadia is what it was. But I don't remember what it was called.
I don't know. I mean,
there has been
really
controversy around this one as well, just because like you play like characters like I think they're based on real people. At least one of them is like the bruiser character you were talking about. I don't remember his name. What is
Yasuke.
his name? Yeah, so he's like a real historical figure, which is cool. But then on top of that, like a lot of the people are pointing out, well, okay, but what about cultural appropriation or whatever? But so like IGN tried to make an article that was like, let's not pretend like we care about Japanese representation. It was like some really weird headline that I did a double take on, like, what was this that you wrote? And they got like lambasted in the comments on that one. So because everybody's like, yeah, we do care about that. What are you talking about? And so it's a weird to have a game set in Japan where you don't get to play as a Japanese guy. But
one of them's Japanese.
Yeah, one of them is. But yeah, I think it's a little bit defensible in this case just because they're using like a historical figure. But either way, like people don't generally like Ubisoft anymore as it is. I think a lot of it is like sort of the apathy that you and I have when it comes to some of their games now. Because they are so like been there, done that year after year for a long time. But then
I do like of all the Souls-like games, the one that most intrigued me was Sekiro because I liked the setting and I like stealth stuff. Like Thief is one of my favorite games, and so I like the ability to like be on rooftops and like slowly and methodically take out like a stronghold or whatever, which was what I liked, which that originally was brought me to like Fallout 3 and Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4, because a big part of those games were here is a compound, take it out however you want, and I would always try and like not alert anybody for as long as possible. So like the ninja aspect of this is interesting to me, but yeah, I don't know. I think you are in the same boat where neither of us have really played an Assassin's Creed game in a long time, and part of it is a little intimidating, I think, because I guess I don't know, but there's like an overarching plot to these.
That's
right?
my question too. Like, how much is the animus like an element?
Yeah, like is that still a thing? I mean, I don't know if it's still
refresh
a thing.
my memory, but that wasn't in the trailer at all.
No, and I don't know if it's. I couldn't tell you if it was still in the thing, like if they have just been like, all right, that's no longer important anymore, let's just stay in the past, Because I don't think a long time ago they killed the main character that's in the present times.
Did
I
they?
believe. Spoiler alert for whatever game that is.
So they're trying to move away from that, I guess.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Either way, I don't know. I have a hard time sensing that this will do very well, but maybe that's because I don't think the Far Cry that came out last did very well either.
That was the one in like South America.
Yeah, and they even
I
got
did not check
they
that
even
out.
got what's his name to play the bad guy.
Yeah.
So
They've always got the star power.
Yeah, and they have star power for those games, and I feel like I don't know. I just feel like Ubisoft is trudging along, just doing the same thing over and over again. And
that they at one point they were like, we need to stop making yearly Assassin's Creed, so we're going to take a step back, and when we come back, we'll have a more polished version of this. But I don't think they ever did that. Like I think we had 2 Assassin's Creed games because we had that one that was like Origins. And then I think we had another smaller one. So it seems like they're still
what was the
cranking
one
them
that
out.
came out last year?
I don't remember. Was that Origins? Was that the one where they went back to Baghdad? They're suffering under their own weight of like how much content they've put
Mirage.
Mirage, yes.
Okay, so they're on like an every 2 to 3 year cycle, it looks like. But still, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not in on this franchise anymore. And so every time they release something new for it, I'm just like, do we want more of this? But I'm so curious as to whether Ubisoft makes a lot of sales when it comes to both Far Cry and Assassin's Creed now, because like you never hear anyone talking about them. Like there's no excitement for these, and yet they just keep making them. And so I think
Valhalla did pretty well for them, I think, because they supported that for years afterwards. But
yeah,
I don't think I ever heard anyone talk about Mirage.
That was the only one that I can remember within the last like however many years that had any sort of like buzz about it. But yeah, I feel like the rest of them do not have any buzz, and nobody's playing them and talking about them when they come out. And yet somehow they just keep pumping them out. So they must be more profitable than I think. So I don't know. Anyway, are you excited about a sequel to the Mortal Kombat movie?
Zach, I'm going to say yes, but the reason for that is, well, so did you watch that first new Mortal Kombat they put out?
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the podcast as well.
I don't think we liked it.
No.
They did a weird thing where they made the main character some guy who doesn't exist in the Mortal Kombat universe for some reason, like a rich universe that has like hundreds of characters to pick from. Maybe not hundreds, but a huge cast of characters you could portray in live action. And they chose some guy whose power was like he has armor or something, or like a stick. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was like a new character for the universe. The player
who
character
I couldn't even tell
that the player created character.
Awful. They did get some stuff right though. Like I feel like Kung Lao looked cool in that, and their weird thing of like, oh, if you I forget even what the plot, like what the story hook was, but you have to like awaken in order to become more powerful, which like allowed different people to unlock their special moves, which made sense. But it was also funny because Jax was a person, and when he awakened, his like robot arms got more powerful, like in Transformers basically, which was very funny to me. But Mortal Kombat 2 is set in the same universe, in the same timeline, but this one I heard is going to follow as a main character Johnny Cage, who's going to be portrayed by Carl Urban.
Interesting.
Which I think is a good... I like Carl Urban a lot. I watched the first season of The Boys, and he's great as Dredd. He's, I think, a great actor. And so if they get rid of that main character from the first one... I mean, famously, Mortal Kombat came out in like 1995, the first movie, or like maybe 1994. I had a Mortal Kombat-themed birthday party where we watched the movie together, and it was great. And then in the sequel, Mortal Kombat Annihilation... they kill Johnny Cage in the first 10 seconds of the movie, basically. Like, bad people come from Outworld or whatever it was called, and he immediately, like, tries to fight them, and then his neck is broken, he just dies. And so, it would be great if in the sequel, Similarly, the main character from the first one immediately is killed because we don't care about him or his family. And then instead of Johnny Cage dying immediately, Johnny Cage then steps out of the shadows and becomes the main character. I don't know. I just think there's a great potential for a Mortal Kombat 2 where Carl Urban is like a hotshot celebrity guy who has to come into this world. I'm much more excited about it than I was about the first one. I'll say that.
Yeah, and here's an interesting question. So Mortal Kombat has like a bunch of DLC characters that are like outside the Mortal Kombat universe. What if some of them start making appearances in whatever this, I guess, franchise is that they're doing?
Now
or
that would be crazy.
Or is that too much?
I would love that, actually. I mean, they always say that like Mortal Kombat is like Smash Brothers for old people, where like we're always excited about like Smash reveals of like who's this new character going to be, and that's also the case for Mortal Kombat. But the new character is always like the Terminator or like Leatherface or something, like just weird things, or Omni-Man or something like that. Obviously, like game rights and TV rights and movie rights are different kinds of rights, but I think that's a really good idea for a movie. Like if the Terminator showed up on this for no reason, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even if they kept it short, if it was just like a cameo, like somebody showed up and you're like, oh my gosh, can you believe this person's in it?
If the Predator shows up in this, it's gonna be a 10 out of 10 movie.
But what if the Predator shows up and is like dead immediately?
I would still love it. I mean, if it's a thing where like Mortal Kombat is happening, and because of that, everyone's leaning into multiverse right now.
Yeah.
They lean into like this tournament is pulling people in from every multiverse or whatever. There's a whole new realm that they've found, and like Alien and Predator pop in for no reason for like a 30-second scene. I would love that.
It would be an interesting way to like do a new Terminator movie.
Yeah.
To just like have him be like a side character that's like going around with the characters of this movie, just like briefly.
They could definitely get Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. That would be very interesting, I have to say.
Zach, I have some news.
Okay.
Did you ever play Majora's Mask back in the day?
I did not.
A project has come out that is not an emulator. Someone has figured out how to completely decompile and recompile Majora's Mask, and so that it natively plays on PC. So it's not emulation. They are very clear that you need the original game to play it, but instead of plugging the game into an N64, you somehow dump the cartridge onto a PC, and it is recompiled by the PC. So technically, there's no piracy going on. Because if you have the original game, you can get this to work. Obviously, people can all download ROMs and stuff to get this to work. But because it is running natively on a computer, it allows for crazy fidelity. Like you can play it super HD. You can affect the frame rate. You can have high frame rates. Loading times are super fast. It looks very, very clean and like smooth. And someone has released this. It's called Zelda 64 Recompiled for PC, Majora's Mask. Came out, I think, last week. They're very clear you need the original game to play it, obviously. So no, this is not emulation. But it looks insane. Like, it looks beautiful, actually. And people are saying that because this method has been discovered, more N64 games will be hopefully ported over to be native, quote unquote, natively run on a PC. And so we'll see additional super high resolution, high frame rate N64 games that we'll be able to play. But
so how would you need the original game?
Well, they're saying that they have the original game and that's where they got all the assets from. So they found a way to dump the assets onto the computer, and there's a program on the computer that recompiles them as if it was a console. So they didn't add anything to this. They purchased the game, they have the cartridge, and they're not emulating it in any way. They got the game from Nintendo, and they're just, instead of plugging it into an N64, they're plugging it into their computer, basically. So that's why they're hoping they're not going to get taken down.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at it, they even show like the improvements to like the textures and the lighting and everything, which is pretty dramatic. And clearly, like, this is what Nintendo should be doing with their, like, the emulation they have on Nintendo Online.
It would be great. They have ultra wide support. I mean, something I always am bummed about when I see stuff on like the Nintendo Online virtual console thing is like you'll boot into something and it's still 4:3, which is not great.
Yeah.
Like I have a 16:9 television. I'd like to see it in 16:9.
Yeah.
But I just thought this was really cool and impressive, and I'm excited to see what other games they'll push out in this way. And it seems legal what they're doing, so I don't think they'll get taken down, but I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, if there was a way that Nintendo could even like bring this person on and be like, hey, could you like work your magic on our Nintendo Online stuff? And
it would be great.
Like have him and a team of people just like, instead of just, you know, dumping the, you know, the emulated versions or whatever it is they do for their Nintendo Online stuff that's still in 4.3 and everything and basically hasn't been touched up all that much. Like, what if they did this?
It would be great.
Especially like with the next generation of the Switch. That would be
right
awesome.
around the corner.
Let's talk about D&D.
The next version, so Dungeons and Dragons has been in 5th edition for a very long time. They announced they were going to be doing something new a couple of years ago. We talked a lot about when they were talking about this because there was a big snafu about the rights to everything. They were going to try to lock everything down and make making your own content like cost money basically. But they've since gone back on a lot of that, and they have committed to having a more open model that allows for collaboration and not necessarily make you have to pay Wizards of the Coast. But the new version they're putting out is not 6th edition, apparently. It's just a revision of 5th edition rules. I think they're calling it a revision. I don't know what the official name is, but regardless of what it is, I'm calling it D&D 5.5, but who knows what eventually it will become known as. That's coming out. The player handbook is coming out in September. And then I think the Dungeon Master's guide is coming out maybe in closer to December. And then the Monster Manual is coming out in 2025. So there's going to be a new set of core rule books. And they revealed, Game Informer actually had a bunch of information about it recently, including there's going to be 2 different covers you can get. There's the main, they revealed the cover art for the main player's handbook, but then there's going to be a separate one that I think is like a special edition that's more like chill, as opposed to like fighting a dragon. You're just like chilling out with a dragon. But the more important thing about this is they revealed, so 5th edition has always been set in the Forgotten Realms. That's like the default campaign setting, which is where like Baldur's Gate is. It's what we've come to know as like, you know, basic fantasy, swords and sorcery type of thing. Faerun is the world, and that's basically where, like in this core source rule books, they are always referencing that setting, basically. And there's a couple of settings. Eberron is one that I think is very cool. The core default setting for this new revision of Dungeons & Dragons is Greyhawk, which is one I had not heard of. And Greyhawk, I guess, is the campaign setting that Gygax came out with for his like personal D&D, that he was like his campaign that he was running. And I don't know a ton about it, but I've been doing some research on it. It seems interesting. But I just wanted to put this on everybody's radar. You can start to pre-order these core rule books now. And I think if you pre-order them, you get a map of Greyhawk, which is interesting to me. But yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. Are you interested in this, Zach? I don't know. I just put this on here because I thought it was cool.
I mean, it's cool. I want to be into D&D. I just don't have the friend group to do it. So it's a thing I live vicariously through you for.
Speaking of needing a friend group to play something, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I am interested in this next thing, which I had not heard of, but looking at it, I played the video that they have embedded in this article that you have linked in the show notes, and I was like, wait, why am I looking at BioShock Infinite?
Yeah.
But apparently this is a new MOBA hero shooter from Valve. So this is Valve's next game, and it's called Deadlock. Explain this to me.
Competitive. So Valve is all about living games like Counter-Strike 2 or Go or whatever it's called is something that they have continued to support. And this is Deadlock. It's a MOBA hero shooter.
Which honestly, I don't know what the MOBA part of it is.
Well, there's lanes, I guess, which is I think is a main. I don't really play a lot of MOBAs, but there's like lanes in MOBAs. According to this person, it's meant to be Valve's next major competitive game, the next Counter-Strike, the next Dota. So it's precise gunplay, laning objectives. Those are the two things they're sort of bringing together. Laning objectives, I think, is the main thing they're bringing from MOBAs, where each side has... I don't really know how a MOBA works. I think each side has like a main thing you're protecting, and then to get to that thing, there are like 4 avenues to get to that are called lanes. And somehow this is going to be third person, or is it first person or third person? Third person. It's in closed alpha right now, apparently. But images show 6v6 gameplay across 4 lanes, suggesting a mix of solo lanes and 2v2 lanes across the map. It also shows transit lines that can get players back to the lane faster, like League of Legends' Hex Gates. All of this is a little over my head again, because I don't think either of us really know about MOBAs. But I think the reason they're using BioShock Infinite is because these transit lines are inspired by BioShock Infinite's Skyhook system, because this is a fantasy/steampunk type of environment. So it's going to be kind of a steampunk style game universe.
Yeah, this is interesting to me. I haven't played like their
Valorant?
Yeah, I haven't played games like Valorant, but
X-Defiant?
Well, X-Defiant that's not from Valve though.
No, I think that's Ubisoft actually.
Yeah, actually, didn't that come out this week? Or
did it? I kept seeing stuff about it, but I thought it was already out and it just didn't make a big splash. But maybe it's not out yet.
I think it was out in like an alpha or like a beta at one point, because I remember Shroud playing it for a little while, but I don't think that was like the official full release, but maybe I'm wrong.
This isn't in our show notes, but did you see they canceled that? What's their other game? What's that game we played where you're in New York and you're like, COVID happened and you're like a guy who's been awakened?
Yeah. Division.
The Division. They canceled the Division Heartlands.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I think it was going to be more of a battle royale type of game, or like an extraction shooter type of thing, but it's been canceled.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that.
I also am seeing, as we wrap up the news segment, I'm seeing a lot of people who got access to that Marvel Rivals. Have you been seeing clips of that?
No. I think we talked about it a few weeks ago, but I haven't seen anything about it since then.
It looks fun. I gotta say, it's reminding me of why I used to love Overwatch. And everyone that is playing it is constantly talking about how it just feels like it's a big breath of fresh air from Overwatch. Like, people who play Overwatch still really love it, but it's a big shift to have these new heroes and this new type of gameplay. It's interesting. I wonder if it'll do well. It seems like it's pretty fun to play.
I'm curious. I might check it out. It depends on, like, did we know if it was free to play or not?
I don't know. I could see them making it free to play, but I could also see them charging like $30 for it.
Yeah, like a Founders Edition or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do we want to get into Animal Well?
Zach, I love Animal Well. There's a lot of secrets in Animal Well, and I think there's like 4 different endings. And I don't think I'm ever going to be able to complete the super secret final ending that got found earlier this week. It only took like 5 days. It's funny because I watched it online because I thought I'm probably never going to invest the time to get all the way to the very, very end. The very end of it is you get to hear a recording of the guy who made it, Bill Basso. And he's like, hey, thanks for playing my game. I don't know when someone's going to discover this. It could be years from now. And it was like 5 days that they figured it out. But man, oh man, I like Animal Well. Immediately after I beat it, I jumped back in and started to continue to look for more eggs. And then I started to watch someone play through it again from the beginning because it's a great game to watch someone discover for the first time. But I was telling you before we started recording that I had kind of a tale to tell about this. So you said you've gotten 3 of the flames, right?
Yeah, so I did the ostrich, seahorse, and iguana so far.
Now, the ostrich is the one I could not get to. I was playing this game, I did the first 3 flames, and then I thought that I knew how to get to the ostrich. There's a room where you come to the room. It's the room where the boar's head is in, that spits out into.
Yeah, speaking of which, like last week we were speculating on fast travel. That's something that I've discovered. So you just use the little flute thing and you play like different combinations of notes and you can sort of fast travel around the map. And one of the places you can fast travel to is that little room with all the heads in it that will allow you. They're sort of like little fast travel points where you can go into one of the heads and it drops you off in a place in a different part of the map. And so, yeah, it's very useful to just like pull out your little flute and play the notes and then pop up in that little sort of fast travel room, so to speak. And so
and it lights everything up for you.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So if you end up in one of the dark rooms and you haven't lit the candle in the room, you can just like play a bunch of notes and it lights up the room. So that's very useful as well.
But where that boar head is, there's a puzzle where there is like a locked gate, and on either side of the gate, there's a button that has to be pressed at the same time. And I could not figure out how to do this. And I had just done the part with all the little hedgehogs that are going around that kind of hug the walls. And I was like, oh, I must need an item that can hug the wall, that like will go underground and then come back up and hit it. So I don't have that item yet. So I just left. And I went through the whole map like a bunch of times looking for extra like clues and eggs and whatnot. Until eventually I got 32 eggs and I unlocked the 3rd door in the egg room, which gave me an item, which is not what I was expecting. But I was like, okay, maybe this item will help me out. And it did not. So then I used that item and I went all around again looking for something that I can interact with that item. I found a second item that I was not expecting. And I was like, okay, maybe this is the thing. And it was not. And then I went through the whole map again using this new item to try to find stuff. And I found more eggs and more secrets and things. And eventually, I couldn't look it up because it was so early on in the game. I kept trying to search for, like, how do you get the ostrich flame or, like, the G flame or whatever. And, one of the guides I found was just, like, go to this room, then go left 1, up 2, and then go right, solve the puzzle in that room, and then keep going right. And I was like, how do you solve this puzzle? That's the thing I need to know, though. And eventually I figured it out. And it was very easy, and it was something I had overlooked.
Is that the one with...
an item I already had.
Is that the one with the ostrich? Where you have to get the ostrich to do it, basically?
No, it was before that even. I had to use the yo-yo. I had to stand on a button and use the yo-yo.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember that. Yeah, because there's 4 of them.
There's only 2 of them.
Okay. Maybe I'm thinking of a different place then. But yeah, you use the yo-yo for a lot of stuff.
That allowed me to, I guess... I fell in love with the game, going through all those places all over again, because I found a ton of secrets by just like going through every room again with these 2 extra items that I found. And the ending was super cool, at least the first ending. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get 64 eggs. But I did do a bunch of optional stuff like freeing all the bobcats and things like that.
Did you free the cats?
I freed the cats. I started trying to look for bunnies, but a lot of them seemed confusing, and I'm not sure how people figured out. I haven't looked anything up yet.
I
But it's not
have
really.
looked up stuff because I would never have known what to do to free the cats
Yeah.
if I hadn't looked them up.
I figured it out because one of the flute songs is very close to those two that are hanging in the ostrich area, and so I was like, oh, I just need to find more of these flute songs, and I eventually did.
Where
But
do
yeah,
you
everything
find
else, like, how to
flute
get
songs? I looked.
they're like on the wall. What you have to do, the flute will light things up usually, and also there's an item you get after you complete your first run that lights things up a lot. And so usually, if you're walking through an area, if it's even a little dark, if you start to light things up, stuff will be revealed behind you. There's stuff written on the walls, and so it's easier to find things once you have completed the game one time.
I see. Well, I have 3 of the flames. So I need to go get the last flame. And I don't have nearly as many eggs as you, I don't think. I'm somewhere in the like 25 to 30, so just not enough to open the third door in the egg room. But I'm making progress. I played a bunch more last night, and yeah, I'm having fun with it as well. It's definitely interesting to solve the puzzles. The ostrich one in particular was like, okay, you have to like go back and forth through different areas and use the yo-yo to get the hamsters on a wheel to reverse course so that you can get them to move platforms in a different direction for you and stuff like that. And so that was interesting and fun to figure out as you're going through and to sort of feel smart once you eventually get through it. And you're like, I figured that out myself. Thank you. But yeah, you get a lot of cool different items. The one I don't know about, which maybe is like, it would be a spoiler for you to tell me about, but I seem to be encountering a bunch of these like boxes that have like a circular shape in them or something like that. I forget what they're, how the game identifies them when I try to interact with them and nothing happens. But yeah, I don't know how to interact with them. So I've been using the mark system a lot on the map. So I'll pull up the map
Yeah, it's
and
very useful.
like leave different marks all over. And so that's been very helpful. But yeah, it's a very cool game.
My game of the year so far, Zach.
I like it a lot. I'm going to try to finish it, but I don't know if I'm that high on it. I do like it though. I'm curious to see where it will land for me when all is said and done. But it will probably definitely make my list for sure.
I think the only thing that could top it is something that is going to come out this year, and I think that it is Silksong.
Yeah, I mean, if that comes out this year, it'll be a contender.
I think it's going to come out this year. This is the year.
This is the year. I mean, we could find out in just a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
And that would be amazing.
It got rated in those countries this year. So it's being rated. That means it's mostly done. I mean, they can't add content to it, so it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen this year.
Gotta happen soon. You would think.
You would think.
Well, anything else to say about Animal Well before we move to the next stuff?
I really like it. I think everyone should check it out. It's a great time. Fun puzzles. You don't have to engage with all the post-game stuff if you don't want to. Obviously, I looked at some guides because the next thing I was going to try to do was get all the rabbits, but some of them are just so obtuse. I don't know how you would figure out what you had to do. So I'm fine leaving it where I am. I might hop in and look for more eggs, but it's not really appealing to me to like have a guide open and one by one collect something after reading like a paragraph about it. But I still really love it, and I think it's great. But that's my final word on it.
Yeah, I agree with you that some of the stuff is definitely fairly obtuse, such that I just would never have figured it out. Like, I looked up the different musical notes to play for like fast travel and to free the cats and stuff like that. I just never would have figured that out. I never would have spotted the stuff to just be in the right place and use the flute to discover, oh, it's written on the wall if you highlight this area or whatever. That just wouldn't have occurred to me to happen unless I happened upon it accidentally somehow.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some other stuff like that in the game where some of it is just like, oh, if you accidentally discover this, you'll figure it out. But if you don't, you'll just like wander aimlessly until you look up a guide for it. But
I will say, with all my aimless wandering, when you complete the game, you get an item that like is timing you, which you can also use for speedruns. Which speedruns of this game are insane. They've got it to under 4 minutes now, which is crazy.
that is crazy.
But when it showed me my time, I was right around like 10 hours, which probably if you knew what you were doing and you didn't waste a bunch of time looking for stuff because you didn't understand how to use the yo-yo, you could beat it in probably like 6 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
So a very quick little game if you want to play it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure I will not be fast with it. I almost don't want to know what my time is going to end up being. But yeah, I'm sure once you like play it the first time just to figure stuff out, and then if you played it a second time and you kind of knew the drill on a lot of this stuff, you could probably really speed through it, even without doing like speedrunner techniques. You could just like get through it much faster. But yeah, anything you've been playing, watching this week?
It's not in the notes, but I did watch Ghostbusters Frozen Empire last night.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was fine. It was enjoyable. I think I maybe liked what was the last one called? The one that was in like
Afterlife?
the Midwest, or yes, I think I maybe like Afterlife a little more. Obviously, neither of these are as good as the originals, but it was fine. I didn't hate it, and they left it open for more of them, which it opened up with. It's like the production company is called Ghost Core, so it seems like they want to make more of these, but enjoyable. I have been letterboxing. And I give it a 3 on Letterboxd, 3 stars.
Oh, nice.
And my review was enjoyable.
One word, very concise. Well, the only thing I've watched this week, I did finally watch Asteroid City, which is Wes Anderson's most recent movie. He thought it was just okay. I liked the concept behind it, but it feels a little bit like a hat on a hat to me. So the concept is basically Jason Schwartzman is like a single father whose wife has recently died, and so he's sort of dealing with that, and he is taking his kids to Asteroid City for like this science fair of some sort. It's like some sort of space summer camp type thing for like gifted teens or whatever. And his son is like there to be a part of that. And while he's there, this like alien spacecraft comes down and it causes the government to like put the city in lockdown basically. And so he can't leave. And so they're stuck there. But so is everybody else that's there. And so he meets like a bunch of different people, including like Scarlett Johansson's character, who's like some actress who's there for some reason. And I was like, that just like as a concept would be a fun, interesting idea to just have like sort of lock a group of people each dealing with different things in like a small town, and have this weird like alien thing happening in the background, but also like you're dealing with all these different human elements as they get to know each other and all of this stuff. And like you see a father sort of processing grief or something like that. That could be an interesting setup for a movie. And then he takes that, but on top of it, he does this like framing device where it's not actually happening. It's a stage play, and Jason Schwartzman is playing a character who's playing a character, and the first character who's playing the other character is also dealing with grief. And so it's just like one layer on top of another layer, and you're just like, I don't need any of this. Just make it about Asteroid City. Don't make it about a stage play on top of it. And it's literally, if you looked up in the definition of what the phrase "a hat on a hat" means, this would be like Exhibit A of like how you basically do too much with something, so to the detriment of the original idea. And so yeah, as much as I love Wes Anderson and wanted to like this movie, and maybe I'll watch it again and it'll like grow on me over time, but like I don't know, I thought it was a little bit much, and he kind of ruined the base concept behind it by layering on this weird stage play thing that was happening.
Interesting. He loves that little, because that I did watch a new Wes Anderson recently. Did I tell you?
No, you didn't.
When my family was over for the holidays, I guess this wasn't recently, but we watched one of those Netflix like mini films he did about what was the plot of that one? The guy who was like really good at gambling.
I haven't seen those, but I think like there's going to be a new season of something over the summer. It might be Cobra Kai or Stranger Things or something like that. And maybe I will sub for a month to watch that. And then while I do that, I will also check out those short films that Wes Anderson did for Netflix.
What's your top one right now if you had to pick a top Wes Anderson?
Well, like my nostalgia picks would be either Rushmore or Royal Tenenbaums, but I do think his best movie is Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
That's probably my overall favorite, but I do love those like first like three or four movies that he did. I was like a super big fan of. I didn't really like French Dispatch because that movie's more of like...
Yeah, I heard it was... People got mixed on it because it was just so many tableaus.
Yeah, it's more of like an anthology type of thing instead of like a one cohesive movie. It's like, here's this part and then here's a different part and then another part or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. So I didn't love that one. I think I liked Asteroid City better than that one. But like I said, it's a hat on a hat in a nutshell is what that movie is.
Well, similarly, that Netflix one that I watched is it's not exactly the same thing, but it is like a Russian nesting doll type of thing where it starts with one story and then that story stops because you have to like learn something about a character from that story and then you go into that person's story. And then that person's story is happening for a while. And then that person is like, well, I have to tell you about this other guy. And so you're like 5 narrations deep into this story. And then that story concludes. You jump back to the one story above that. It's like Inception almost. Then that one concludes. You jump back up. Then you jump back up again. And finally, the first story concludes once you have all this context. But I mean, I thought it was good it was interesting. And most of it is people talking at you, which is kind of a weird thing. But still haven't watched Grand Budapest Hotel. I have it. I just I'm waiting to do it.
You should. That movie is great.
I know. It's my little Battlestar Galactica thing. I think we talked about it on the podcast, where I'm waiting for a time when I can finally enjoy it.
Well, on that note, go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Starside Cafe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.